What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're closing out the week with a full recap of our Monday's Bitcoin analysis and Tuesday's XRP update. One of our trades just hit full take profit and I'll walk you through exactly how that all ended up playing out. But most importantly, after Bitcoin's recent sell-off that we're seeing right now, I'm officially flipping bullish on the crypto market and I'll break down why in today's weekly recap episode. So let's get right into it. Firstly, have a look in here at the Bitcoin price chart. Earlier in the week, you can see that on Monday's video, price was sitting around these levels, and what we were looking for the forecast for the week and how we expected price to play out was similar to how price played out on this right side here, where we had predicted that we were in a moment like this, and that price was going to sell off, bounce, and then come crashing down from this moment here. So let's have a look back to Monday's Bitcoin video and see exactly what we spoke about. And now we're in this period of consolidation, and what we should see next is a sell-off straight back down to roughly these levels here on the left. And then once we see that bounce back, we should see a sweep of these highs, and that's the sweep of the high. So we should see price sell back off to here, come up, sweep the high, set that lower low, break of structure, and then sell off. And that's most likely where we'll look to add to our short once we see three different confirmation signals. The first confirmation signal being this low getting tapped in here, and then the sweep of the high being our second confirmation signal, and then we want to see this break of structure and then the rally back up to set a lower high here to add to our short. And now, as you can see, price has played out perfectly how we spoke about on Monday, and that things have gotten to that level now where we have officially seen all these lows swept here on Bitcoin, and we are putting in that bottom similar to our example here back from early 2024 where we've been referencing from. And it's what's actually craziest about this week is the way the price has been playing out on such a shortened time frame here. As you can see on the left, we're only on the 30-minute time frame here, and this chart here on the right is on the 4 hours. So things are playing out much faster here, but the similarities in the structure is quite scary. Even as you can see, we have, once these lows get set in here, we have that double bounce before things sell off, and we had the same thing get set in here once we had those lows, and then we had that double bounce, and then that's what gave us that aggressive bottom where things push down, which is exactly how we've had things play out here, where we've had that aggressive bottom and things have played out quite similar. And right now, from what we can tell, it looks like the bottom is in. We have gone ahead and actually placed some Bitcoin trades, but what's most exciting here is now this is the first A leg of the Bitcoin correction. And what once took 49 days for Bitcoin to do, Bitcoin has essentially done this correction so far in just over a week. So moving much faster like we anticipated as well on Monday's video, and we can still see that pace being kept up even today on Friday. So now what we are looking for here is Bitcoin to bounce and revisit these local highs. So on today's chart, what we're looking for is Bitcoin to push up off these lows, come back into this zone roughly, catch a bit of a bounce here and correct, and then push back up to those local highs that we created. So this is what we're going to be looking for over the weekend and into Monday, and hopefully by Monday we can have pushed up to this zone. Now let's jump into XRP and have a look at something, because what's most interesting about Bitcoin actually finding its bottom right here, if it is going to be Bitcoin's bottom, is the XRP price chart. And as you can see on XRP, it has come down and hit that 2.17 to 2.15 level we were talking about. Now we've been sitting on this for quite a while, expecting price to play out like this, and now it's finally got down to this level. Now I'm going to play a snippet from Tuesday's XRP video talking about the relevance of this trend line and price action, and why we were waiting for price to get to this level, and why we think that this could be a potential bottom here on XRP. However, in the short term, it is likely that XRP does find support on this trend line down here at around that $2.15 area, potentially even wick below it. And until that happens, the way we're trading this market is going to stay the same, where we still think XRP is going to come in for that ABC correction. We've kept our messaging pretty much the same the entire time here on the channel, not expecting crazy breakouts, not expecting things to go to the moon just yet, and that there's still a little bit more selling off and correcting before XRP can actually go, and that it never expands without Bitcoin. So we are waiting for Bitcoin to finish this consolidation. So as you can see on Tuesday's XRP video, there is a ton of confluence at this zone from the Litecoin example, which we spoke about, and in also previous weeks when we spoke about XRP flushing these regions and actually coming back and finding support in this zone here now we've hit it. And not only have we hit it, we've wicked it quite aggressively and bounced back, which is exactly what we wanted to see here on XRP. On top of that, we also have the Bitcoin dominance still sitting at the 618, battling this level. So during this whole sell-off, the altcoin market has been performing quite well, which is further confluence in what you want to see, that we are going to have a rotating market next time Bitcoin breaks out, and it's most likely that the altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin in that moment. So coins like XRP, Solana, ETH should do bigger percentages than Bitcoin and outperform in this last leg of the market. On top of that, the XRP dominance finally come down for that flush, which we have been talking about for weeks as well. So similar to the way it played out here on this fractal above in early November last year, that final flush potentially has come in for XRP. So we have a confluence of events here where we have XRP's price coming in for those levels, where we're now happy to see that there could be a potential bottom here on XRP. And to confirm that thesis, we now have Bitcoin, which has been playing perfectly to this fractal here on the right, now at that level where it's most likely forming this bottom right here, and that we should see Bitcoin push up, which means we can also see XRP push up. So come Monday's Bitcoin update video and then Tuesday's XRP video, we should hopefully see Bitcoin back up at these levels and XRP get a bounce off these lows. Now let's talk about how our trade went over the last 2 days and close out our final thoughts on that, as we've had a very successful trading week, 2 from 2 on quite large trades here, and now we can see that that trade is fully closed out and filled with our entry at 110, closing it out at about 106,000 here for a 35% gain on Bitcoin. And as you can see, that is that $110,000 price level right up there, and here is our 106 right here. That trade is now fully closed out, and we're very happy with how that performed. It was a great trade for us, even when we jumped into the trade at $0 here live on Wednesday's video. And then yesterday's video, you've seen us take our first take profits down in these levels here, and now finally closing the trade out right here once we've seen Bitcoin sweep those lows and hit our take profit target. However, now the shorting bias is over and we have flipped bullish, and yes, of course, we have trades here like XRP, which we are now long on, and we have a pretty nice entry here. We sniped the bottom quite accurately, and we also have a Bitcoin long position as well. However, not looking to add to any of these positions until we can see a confirmation that the low is in and what that will be. This moment right here, where we can see Bitcoin actually push to the upside, sweep past this chop range, which is most likely this zone here. And then what we want to see is support actually found in here, the same way it found support in this zone down here. So all in all, this is probably one of our best weeks we've had on the channel here, as our Monday's Bitcoin and Tuesday's XRP price analysis has played out so perfectly. So for the few of you that were lucky enough to catch all that and watch all these videos, you're probably not too spooked out about this sell-off or this dump right now that's happened on Bitcoin or the wider market, seeing that XRP has also flushed quite aggressively here in this moment. But now the fun part starts, where we can start to see XRP start to push back to the upside here and make some ground back up, and we should start to see Bitcoin make some ground. But again, we need to see some confluence here, which is Bitcoin pushing out of these levels and then catching some support, most likely above this region here. And hopefully we can see some positive price action over the weekend and see XRP bounce from these zones, similar to the way we've seen Litecoin actually bounce in this exact same moment right here, where it did find support on that trend line, wicked below it, started closing candles above it, and then could start moving up. And then that was when the fun got started for Litecoin. And if XRP is to perform like that, that'll be great. However, the only thing that we're going to have to analyze when we get back to these local highs up here for Bitcoin is if we're going to actually see that C leg come out. Now, one thing I actually want to talk about in this moment is how price played out in the past and what the psychological effect that actually has on traders and people, even market participants. Because what ended up playing out last time was this crazy move where Bitcoin pushed back to the upside, then it sold back off, and then it gave life that it was going to happen again, and then that final C leg came in, and then things could get going, right? So what the psychological effect this has on a market participant is, right now, if you're feeling the burn right now on XRP, and maybe you got in higher up when prices were higher here, and now you're seeing XRP price come down quite a fair bit like it has here, most people in a moment like this are thinking that they've made a big mistake buying up at these levels, and that as soon as they get an opportunity and price bounces a bit, that they're most likely going to sell their position here. And what spooks most people out the most is when they see price bounce, they think they've done all right, and then they start to see price sell off back down in here. like is what we're predicting to happen. But in this moment, this is where people think, all right, I got to get out now before it gets back down to where it was before and things get even worse. And then what the market tends to do is what the market always does. It sits down in those levels for quite a while, and then it just rips back to the upside. And then what happens to most people is they see Bitcoin back up at these high levels here, which would be like that $110,000 area. And then they start to buy back in on their altcoins like XRP, because XRP in a moment like that could shoot quite high back to these $2.50 levels. So then what these people actually do is end up rebuying back into the market at these levels. If you've been watching this channel, that price back at these levels right here is the top before things sell off and correct again. And you can see how ugly and choppy these corrections are, where it really shakes a lot of people around in this market, and price can be quite chaotic in something like this. And then eventually what happens is this thing called buyer exhaustion, where people see price come down to a level like this and they think, oh no, I don't want to have to feel that pain of price being back down at these levels like we just were earlier today. So then they sell out here, but then they end up buying back here because they get all excited that we're back at the high again. And then price flushes straight back down, then they feel like an idiot and sell in a moment like this. And then they think about buying back up here after they see price push up so aggressively so fast. And then they see price aggressively sell off and they think, oh, thank God I didn't buy. It was a good idea I didn't buy. But then price chops around in these levels, doesn't really do anything. You see that slow grind back up. And then they see price back at these levels that we're waiting for, where price gets exciting. And it's at this moment here where they go, oh, price is back at these levels again. It's sold off every time here, not interested in this market. And then boom, things happen so fast, so quick. You don't get any chance to get pullbacks, so you don't even get a chance to get into the market, and it's off. And the altcoins go even crazier in a moment like this. But this is what you call buyer exhaustion, where buyers just get washing machined in this market until the point that there's no one left, and that the institutions have accumulated enough coins in this moment to eventually send it, but send it so fast that you never really get a chance to get in. So taking all that into account and understanding the way that the market makers can manipulate this market to flush so many people out, it'll be really interesting to see how Bitcoin is going to react when it makes it back up to this price area. And if we start to see those corrective structures like we see here on the right side, it's probably going to be a pretty good indicator that Bitcoin isn't going to go to push out, and that XRP itself might even reject from these levels and come down lower, causing more pain and more frustration along buyers as things are taking even longer for them to play out. So it's going to be really interesting once we see price move back up to this level, which we're expecting it will. However, not getting too excited in this moment, as it's most likely we do see more washing machine action, where a lot more sellers get shaken out of this market and things get way uglier until the point where no one's really interested in crypto anymore, and you start to see this boring choppy price action, and then things go. But most people and most market participants don't know that this is the moment when things can start to go, once everyone's been shaken out, once everyone's been flushed. So just trying to keep market psychology in check here, as this is a pretty important part of trading that not too many people talk about. And having lived through a moment like this before, I can tell you that if you're unexpected for a range like this, it can be quite chaotic. And in theory, they're really easy to trade, because when price is up at these levels, you should be looking to sell your positions. And when price is down at these levels, you should be looking to flip bullish and buy or long your positions. But that's just not the way it works in moments like this, and emotions get way too out of hand when price is up at these levels. And what it leads to is just a psychological break for a lot of buyers and traders who just get washing machined in this moment and then don't really want to participate by the end of this move. So again, keeping all this in mind when we see price move back up into these levels, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. But all is good so far. We've seen XRP bounce well off this $2.17 level. It's already back at $2.21, $2.22, and now we should start to see by Monday, hopefully it push back up into those regions. And Bitcoin also bouncing decently well in this moment here, starting to look a lot like this moment here on the right. So I'll be back on Monday with a Bitcoin update. Hopefully we can see some confirmation of this move actually playing out. Maybe we're even in this moment and we can add to our Bitcoin long position here. But until then, guys, don't get caught up in the excitement. I know it's going to be exciting if price gets back up into these levels and we're touching on them all-time highs again, and it looks like it's going to break out and that it could really be it in this moment here. But just knowing that it could get much worse and much more washing machine-y, and this is the moment where most people lose all their money, they lose all their patience, and they walk away from this market right before things get exciting. But most people don't know that and can't see this yet. All they see is this, and that's enough for most people to walk away from crypto. Anyways, guys, have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend. We'll catch back up on Monday and Tuesday for the Bitcoin and then the XRP update videos. And hopefully we have some exciting price action to talk about, and that in the long positions we've taken over the weekend play out quite well. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, as you are getting some of the best crypto chart analysis out there right now. I see so many traders getting absolutely annihilated in these zones, just washed up right now, and we have been 2 from 2 on the trades we've taken, but our entries have been right here and right here for both shorts, and now we're flipping bullish. So we have been pretty spot on here on the channel, and anyone that's caught the videos from the last week is most likely a lot less anxious than most people, especially in a moment like this. So feel free to give the video a like if you enjoyed this little weekly recap update, and I'll see you guys on Monday.